spiritual nectar. I think, like in most instances, when it comes to spirituality, there's almost always a very simple answer and not a fun one, which is basically to do the practice, whatever that practice may be. Like in Zen Buddhism, it's basically the only thing they say over and over and over. Just stay with the practice. Just keep doing the practice. Don't, don't be bothered by anything. Don't get caught up in anything. Don't think about anything. Don't be caught up in even uh, spiritual experiences, spiritual states, and those things. Just go go ahead and do your practice, the meditation practice mostly. So we do a meditation practice like a koan training, for example, or we could do mantra meditation. We could do, all kinds of different, noting, just being aware, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But these practices, they they do a lot of things, but according to Nisargadatta Maharaj, he usually says that spirituality is about ripening, and doing the spiritual practice, or doing sadhana, as they call it, is increased ripening. And these spiritual nectars, they tend to occur as a natural, just like something is, to keep with the metaphor, I guess, or at least with the natural world. There are, apples, they are getting ripe, and then you eat them, and there is nectar. It just spontaneously occur when they're during the right circumstances. So we can't really force it, just as we can't really force an apple to ripen. But yeah, at least according to Nisargadatta Maharaj, we can sort of increase the ripening, and increasing the probability, if I guess you could say, for receiving spiritual nectar would be to doing the spiritual practices that you're already doing, I would say. To the degree that spiritual nectar is associated with Kundalini, Chi, prana, or, Kundalini rising, Kundalini awakening, you would think at least that there are some practices that would be more in tune with that type of endeavor. But I think, at least to my mind, and the most spiritual or a lot of spiritual teachers that I've seen, at least, don't tend to be that bullish on doing specific Kundalini practices, but instead seeing them as a natural occurrence from the sort of regular or usual spiritual practice, because these energies are, I mean, like most things, it is very highly individual, and there are a lot of people doing Kundalini yoga, for example, and getting good results. But there are people who awake Kundalini and get into a lot of trouble, both doing it, as a standalone practice almost, or who just goes through that type of experience, even if they're not really even into it, or not even know what it is. They're just, for example, just meditating or going about their day even. So you do whatever you want. I would just caution to try to specifically go for increasing Kundalini, because you could end up in trouble for it. But as some people seem to be doing, there isn't, like with most things regarding spirituality, there's only anecdotal evidence, as it were. There's almost no studies on anything at all because, of course, it's really old tradition, and yeah, doing studies on these things are, yeah, it's hard to get funding for, medicines or whatever to do randomized controlled trials or whatever. So there's no money in doing this, and it's cumbersome, and it takes a lot of effort and time. So we will have to go mostly with anecdotal evidence for these things. Anyway, I asked ChatGPT about what spiritual nectar is, and it says that it's a metaphorical term used across various spiritual traditions to describe an essence or energy or substance that is believed to be divine, purifying, or life-sustaining on a spiritual level. Yeah, often associated with spiritual awakening, enlightenment, and the cultivation of inner peace and bliss. The concept is deeply rooted in the mystical and religious teachings. So we have it in Hinduism, and I was surprised to see this actually. Well, not very surprised, but a bit. I haven't seen the word Amrita in a while, but when I went through my own, a part of my own awakening journey, so to speak, I read the book called Thousand by Ramaji, and in it he's well read on a lot of a lot of traditions, but also Ramana Maharishi, and Ramana Maharishi spoke about the Amrita Nadi, so the path of or the river. I don't know what Nadi means. I think I looked it up. We can see what it means. The Amrita Nadi is subtle invisible channel or pathway that connects the nasal cavity to the heart and ultimately to the self. Or so Amrita Nadi is considered an immortal channel or channel of bliss and immortality. Atma Nadi. Yeah. So that's where I heard about it from Ramaji, who spoke about it, and for me, I was really surprised to actually notice it during my sort of awakening process. I felt it just that it was described in the book, and I mean, who knows if you could be inclined to think that it's what we call placebo, placebo, or just a figment of my imagination. But yeah, I was actually really surprised because a lot of the things that he wrote about in that book came true for me. And I don't usually have that many weird experiences in my life, but that sure was one of them. I had some, but not like every day, or not as often as I hear other people do it. So Amrita. So that is a spiritual nectar, and then I realized reading this that I actually have experiences from it. I felt the pathway from the spiritual heart on the right that Ramana Maharishi speaks about to the nasal cavity, and it goes through kind of the shoulder blade and up through the It was really weird to experience it, and not sure exactly what it did. It's not. I mean, they write about Amrita it is, you can find it in many traditions, but like the Zen tradition that I'm from, mostly doing most of my practice in, they don't speak about it at all. They don't speak about the heart on the right, the spiritual heart on the right either, that Ramana Maharishi speaks about. There are a lot of things like chakras that isn't prevalent in Zen Buddhism either. That doesn't really matter, and I think most of these things doesn't really matter at all at all. Uh, but it can be interesting still, and if you're having the actual experience of it, then for sure it could be interesting, and just noticing it. I imagine I wouldn't even have noticed it, maybe, if I didn't read about it first. So in Hindu mythology, Amrita is the nectar of immortality, often obtained from the churning of the cosmic ocean. It is said to grant eternal life. Yeah. So Kundalini Yoga, as I mentioned, in this practice, spiritual nectar is often referred to as Amrita or Soma. Okay, so Soma is, yeah. It is believed to drip from the pineal gland, Sahasrara chakra, during deep meditation or the awakening of Kundalini. Yeah, so we have spiritual bliss and vitality too. And within Buddhism, it's called Amrita or Dutsi. In Vajrayana, the um, tantric Tibetan Buddhism, it's Amrita is considered a sacred nectar used in rituals and initiations. Yeah. Medicine Buddha is often depicted holding a bowl containing healing nectar, symbolizing the power of spiritual practice to heal physical and spiritual ailments. So we see it in a lot of traditions, and also in Sikhism, and we see it the name given to the sacred nectar used in initiation ceremony called Amrit Sanchar. Okay, and we have a golden elixir in Taoism. And yeah, they speak about golden elixir. Not sure if that's actually the same thing, but metaphor for an internal chemical process where the practitioner refines their vital essence, which is called ki. So that's similar-ish to Kundalini, into a form of spiritual nectar that grants longevity, health, and spiritual enlightenment. That's great. We have some version of it in Christian mysticism. They don't refer to it as nectar, but I know, yeah, definitely there are Christian books that speaks about honey and nectar for sure. Not sure if it's in the same context exactly. I can't remember now. And we have Sufism from the Islamic tradition, the wine of love. In Sufi poetry, the love of God is often likened to wine, a metaphor for spiritual nectar that intoxicates the soul with divine love. Yeah, this nectar symbolizes the ultimate experience of unity with the divine. So it's interesting to see this. Yeah, there are a lot of things that go. That is, yeah. Just for as an example, we have in Sufism something called fanaa, which is almost exact same thing as nirvana in Buddhism, which means cessation or ego death. So, and the mystical traditions of all these major religions, and as well as Taoism that I mentioned here, have these similarities, which are really interesting. And nectar seems to maybe be one of them. Symbolism and significance across these traditions, spiritual nectar represents more than just a metaphor. It is a symbol of divine sustenance, spiritual awakening, and the transformative power of sacred practice. Yeah, so it's either something being consumed, which is of course very different from something being endogenously created, often signals deep connection with divine. So I don't know. I mean, nectar can be many things, and of course, if you have also, I'm thinking about this word soma. I've heard at least that it's supposedly could mean also that something that you actually drink or eat that may be psychedelic. That could also be a form of nectar or metaphorically. Purification, spiritual nectar is often associated with the purification of the soul or body, immortality and enlightenment. It symbolizes attainment of spiritual immortality, enlightenment, or a state of divine consciousness, and also unity with the divine. In essence, spiritual nectar serves as a powerful symbol. Yeah. So this is what ChatGPT did a concoction for as an answer to my question. But yeah, I think it is there, and I remember also that this is in Swedish, but we have in the Kensho Sutra, they also speak about literally um, something, raining down spiritual nectar, and raining down, and it takes away all the what was it? Yeah, the flames of worry, basically, in my my translation. I don't know what it's supposed to be in English. So we have flames and of worry, and they are soothed or evaporated by rain of spiritual nectar. So we have these metaphors in many ways. And yeah, it can be used in all of these ways, but I think it may also be something that is literal, like many of these spiritual sayings. And yeah, if you some of it obviously is metaphorical in different ways, but some of it is definitely not. Some is just they're just saying it how it is, and it because it sounds so out of pocket or unusual or weird. Maybe people think of it as being metaphors, but I remember even just reading a song from a psalm in the Christian tradition, and it goes like God is all around you and inside you, or something like a children's song almost. And yeah, that is not metaphorical. It seems that way if you read it and you think about it from a sort of logical or cognitive standpoint. But if you're in your actual experience, if you have the mystical experience of divine unity, or the experience of unio mystica, waking up, the cloud of unknowing, that can definitely be your actual experience that you are God, basically. Or not the egoic self, of course, but yeah, or at least having the experience of God as being all around you, like the force or something, but not as a concept, but as an actual experience, as a first-hand experience. And the same thing seems to be also with these nectars. Can be metaphorical, can be a way of storytelling, but it can also be both exogenous, if you drink something maybe like soma, and also endogenous, or created from the inside, again, through spiritual practices, through meditation, through shamanic practices, whatever, dance, singing, chanting, loving, all those things can increase the probability, shall we say, for those types of experiences to actually experience. I remember also, I think it was even Jim Carrey speaking about on Norm Macdonald's Norm Has a Show, or whatever it was called. He spoke about, I don't remember now, but something going up the spine to the head and to the pineal gland, maybe. Again, I'm not sure, but it just sounds like a sort of spiritual essence of some sort. Could be spiritual nectar. I don't remember the way he phrased it. It seemed also like he was making a joke, and it was funny in some ways. But just as these psalms and texts and sutras and whatever aren't metaphorical, so so also Jim Carrey wasn't just trying to be funny. He meant it, or at least I think he did. He has come through a spiritual awakening himself, and he is very much into spirituality. So when he speaks about that it's it may be even his own experience, but at least it's something that he's interested in and actually serious about. Even though, I mean, you don't need to, act serious to be to believe in it or to speak about it. He's still his, maybe he left the character Jim Carrey, but he's still a character of sorts, doing similar jokes and similar types of things. He's just freer now, as he woke up from even Jim Carrey, as he himself says. Jim Carrey is no more. Jim Carrey was just a dream, and now he's free from that dream, and yeah, he feels better. Okay, so that's my take on spiritual nectar. I don't think it's really anything to shoot for, or yeah, I mean, I don't, I don't think it's if it's something for you, but it's can almost be all these things can become like spiritual materialism. Trying to gain certain things, unless, I mean, of course, people should strive for enlightenment, and there's nothing wrong in that, or nothing else either. Of course, you can do whatever you want, but to strive for, these spiritual experiences or spiritual nectar or spiritual, cities or spiritual capabilities, yeah, that there's almost no traditions that recommends that, because it's just more egoic stuff. Just kind of seem spiritual because they occur within but if there's grasping, there's grasping. I imagine the only grasping that is okay is the one for, true freedom or enlightenment. That's yeah, that's not even that yearning isn't even coming from the ego in the end. It is you yourself, and not the egoic mind or this yearning, even though the egoic mind could maybe cling on to some ideas about enlightenment and, being, yeah, things being different from it. I know that was the case for me for sure. And maybe being a spiritual, enlightened being, and that people will care about or something like that. Those things are, I mean, also fine, but they're not really conducive to to anything at all. It's just more suffering to be attached to those thoughts. But yeah, okay.